Hello, I'm David Morgan with the Kansas chapter. On behalf of the Practice and Technology Committee, this is the Tech Tip for the month. Today, we're going to talk about AI. It's going to be a little different than usual. It's not going to be in depth. It's not going to be complicated. We call this AI for beginners. If you've never used it before, this tech tip is for you. Today I have with me Lawrence Datz of Datz and Datz Law Firm out of Jacksonville, Florida, and he's going to talk about this subject. Now, I have talked to Lawrence in the past, and he had some reservations about AI, so he is somewhat of a newcomer in this arena. And I'm going to start with one question. Lawrence, did you have some reservations about AI? And if so, what were they?
Well, I would say not reservations in the context of it delayed me getting into it. And I guess full disclosure for the audience, I'm co-chair of the Law Practice Management and Technology Committee. David's a member of our committee. And but the things that kind of delayed me from getting started is that one, just we all procrastinate things that we're not used to doing. Two, I was worried about the investment and expense in AI technology. Excuse me. Three, I think we've all heard horror stories about lawyers getting disciplined because there were false things and stuff they submitted. And then lastly, and I think this is probably true for everybody, there's a learning curve involved. It takes time to learn new things. Anyway, but sort of full disclosure, our committee has some people with advanced degrees in computer science, and then there are people like me who don't have a degree in computer science. And so I'm a learn as you go, just like most of the rest of the academy. So, Dave, you want me just to kind of take it and run?
Well, I guess the next question is, so have you gotten over these reservations and started using AI?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, after using AI for a while, do you believe your reservations were well-founded or a bit without basis?
The answer to both of your questions is yes. What really happened is this. First, I did some research. Second, I had access to people on our committee. And so for those who don't have access to that type of thing, you might think of this tech tip as we're giving you that access. Then, I got into my firm uses Microsoft 365 Business Standard. And so I did some research about that. And also, I don't want to forget, especially when we get to the examples, I got some training for using Westlaw's version of AI. And so what it all distills to is this. It's not very expensive. There's some things that the user needs to look out for so you don't wind up being one of those horror stories, but it's actually pretty easy. Three, it just takes a little practice.
So, do you have some examples for us today on what you have done to start using AI in your practice?
Yes. So let me talk about, the genuine nuts and bolts of how I got started. So one of the things I learned is the horror stories you hear about. And those horror stories, to me, probably arise from two things. One is, and this is a benefit of Microsoft 365, a co-pilot, but at the level it's at for business standard, people would understand it's called an M365. But it gives you the option to do inquiries through your own files or to go out on the web. So you probably you might have heard the expression hallucinations when it comes to AI. And that is where your AI app goes out on the web and cannot discern whether the information is true or false, right or wrong. And so you have to be circumspect when you go out on the web for things. Now, if you're doing legal research with something like West, that is not the case because you're confined to Westlaw's databases. But anyway, so I've tried it in a number of different ways, and just ordinary day-to-day practice. Tried it with a little vacation planning, and tried it with West, and it's all been wonderful. It's so easy. I think most people would say, "Gee, I should have started this a long time ago." So let me take you through it. My first example, and Dave, let's see if we can get this to open up, do a share screen. Can you see a a Word page?
No, I can.
Oh, I've got to be one to share, excuse me. No?
Okay, I have to allow it. There you go.
All right, so the first one,
I can see it.
okay. The first one is something I did. I had a domestic violence hearing, and I assume they work around the rest of the country about like they do in Florida, where usually they're on pretty short notice. And so what I did, this one involved an accusation of domestic violence against a child. I was representing the father. And so he sends me over 300 pages of text messages. It's about 7:15 on the night before the hearing at 8:15 in the morning. And he's saying, this child has had issues with lying before, and you got to look at those text messages. And of course, my first thought was, and I probably said something out loud to the effect of whether he was out of his mind. But then he said, what about AI? And I said, oh my goodness, I didn't think of that. So I click and drag the file with the text messages into M365 and did a query for instances when the child was accused of lying. So this is between the mother who brings the domestic violence action and the child in question. And sure enough, you can see it gives me quotes from the text messages. Like you can see that right there. And in other places, it does that throughout, but it also gives some analysis as to why it picked those quotes. And it was right on. It was amazing. All right, so next, and I just happened to do this one today. This one was kind of curious. I had a question whether or not an employee was, what kind of work they were doing, as in, were they working or how much they were working. And so I went into a Microsoft 365 administrator, and it gave me an M365 window, because I quickly realized, I'll be searching through this forever trying to figure it out. So in a matter of minutes, and I should go back to, on the last one I showed you, the analysis of 300 plus pages of text messages took under 5 minutes with AI. This one, and see if I can make this happen here. Oops, I lost all my screens. Hang on a minute.
I can see that.
Can you see where it says, here's what you can do as an admin?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I got the right screen. But basically, like I said, I would have been messing around with Microsoft 365 probably for at least an hour before I figured this out. It generates this whole set of instructions and things that you can do. It generated that in a matter of minutes. Go on to one more. This is the one I want to show you from West. Now, let me preface this with West had given me a tutorial of sorts, like with a live human being. And they give you this disclaimer up front that this stuff is in its infancy, and therefore you need to check everything. I would say, so far in my experience, which has been several months, I have not had any problems. Let me go to the share screen here. So this is a copy. What I did, this is my query. And one of the things I learned, everything is in the query, but and a point I wanted to make too is when the very first time I started to experiment with any of this, I did it with my home version of Microsoft 365. This window kind of popped up almost out of nowhere, but the salient point is the computer says to me, just talk to me like you're talking to a friend. And that's one of the things that makes this so wonderful. So my question presented, recent cases on spoliation of evidence and legal obligation preserved under Florida law. They reworded it slightly, but
let me interrupt you there just a second, because I think this is very good, by the way. Let's be a little more mechanical for those beginners. Where do you type in that instruction mechanically? Now, you had that up there. I think you hit the little ribbon, and at the bottom there's a box that says, what do you need? And you type it in there. That's what I understand.
Okay, so, well, let's go ahead and do a share screen on that. Let me open West. Now, you have to have West Co-Counsel as part of your plan in order to do this. So let's see, let's get the right share screen going. All right, so if you see over in the right corner here, it says Co-Counsel. And welcome, what would you like to do today? And down here, like other forms of AI, they give you a little chat box of sorts that you type into. So that's what I used. And now I'm going to go back to the result I was showing you. As soon as I get the right button on my computer. Okay, and so here's the response. It's got hyperlinks to the cases and statutes, whatever the authorities are. And I want to scroll to the bottom because I thought this was kind of interesting. Oh, it didn't do it here. But on the actual screen that generated it, it gives you kind of a disclaimer at the bottom that you ought to check the resources. But the fact is that, and my experience has been that things that used to take, 30 minutes or an hour are taking like 3 to 5 minutes. And, it gets you going. I mean, I would say, you definitely need to go click on the authorities that they're giving you to be sure that you've got good stuff. And I learned at this point that, yes, those horror stories I mentioned in the beginning, those occur because of people who did not check the results of their AI searches. And checking the results is pretty important. David, oh, you're on mute.
All right. Those are great examples, but from what I know, it really is nothing more than activating the co-pilot, which I call co-pilot. I think you call it M365, the same thing. And it has a message box, and you literally need just to ask it a question, and it allows you to upload a document. And that's how you do it. It's that simple. Do you agree?
Correct. Absolutely. The one thing, and this may be getting a little more technical than we meant to, but there are different levels of AI language. And so that's one of the advantages of Microsoft 365, for example. The AI available for business standard gives you their most sophisticated language, I understand. I could be wrong about that. But so if you were just to log into Microsoft Edge as an ordinary user, I'm pretty sure you still get Copilot. It just may not be their most sophisticated version.
Yeah. Well, I think that was an excellent presentation. Thank you a lot. I think those are good examples for beginners who haven't used this, that they need to kind of crack the egg and try it, pull down Copilot, ask a question, and have it do something like summarize a long document or information like you did, and get started. I think they're going to find out that it would help them quite a bit. Do you agree?
I agree. Not only that, but we were having a little discussion about an upcoming webinar last week, and you can do all kinds of entertaining things to experiment with it, such as drag a picture into that box and tell it to do something with the picture, like make yourself look 30 years younger. And it's just amazing.
Did you ask it what you would look like with hair?
That's why I went for the 50 years younger. And it made me look a lot better. I was better looking than I was in real life. But yes, I had hair.
All right. Well, thank you. I think that's good. I think we're going to wrap this up. That's the tech tip for the month. And until next month, we are over and out.
All right. Thank you.